Hey guys, how is it going? Man, they have just left me alone here today. AJ's out, and man, I'm just pretty much here all alone. But I am on the air and live at AJ's Bar, located at 651 South Main Street in historic downtown Grapevine, Texas. Across the street from, imagine, that immortal wing 6'2" unicorn with a 9-foot wingspan that we hang out with every Monday. I mean, we get up close and personal with Imagine every week. I see that you guys brought some friends along today. That's awesome. We enjoy large numbers at this party, so we're glad that you're bringing some folks with you. My featured guest today is Simon Kirke. He is an English rock drummer best known for keeping the beat for two of the 1970s most popular bluesy hard rock bands, Free and Bad Company. Simon is best known for his powerful backbeat drumming. He is a multi-instrumentalist and songwriter. He co-wrote Bad Company with Paul Rodgers, as well as most of the songs on his 3 solo albums. Though Simon's main commitment is with Bad Company, he has done 3 tours with Ringo Starr's all-star band and performs his own solo shows. Simon lives in New York City with his wife, Maria Angelica. And here he is now.
Hi, this is Simon Kirke, a drummer with Free and Bad Company, and you are watching DC on Barside Jive.
Thanks for that, Simon. We appreciate it. See you soon. Let's see, this is about the time in the show I asked AJ what we're drinking, and today he probably would have told me 8-track, because that's what we drink every show, because
That's out.
it's finally out.
Yeah.
Thank God it's finally out. Shoot, I thought we'd never get rid of that 8-track. I mean, it was like a Groundhog Day around here. So what we drinking, AJ? And the answer was always 8-track. But today, he wasn't here, so I changed it up. Actually, Morgan says we're out of it anyway, so we couldn't have drank 8-track if we wanted to, although it is a really nice beer. Today, we are drinking, just for you guys, Adios Pantalones. It's a Rahr & Sons Brewery Special from Fort Worth, Texas, just our neighbor to the west. So, cheers to you guys. Nice. Very nice. Okay. Well, in addition to my guest segment, which comes later in the show, I've got unconventional news, non-traditional weather, unheard of sports, and traffic that's sure to make you go, what the hell did I just see? We deliver it in that raw and edgy way that you just crave, but you don't get from those regular guys. No, those guys on TV, you don't get it. So you come here on Monday, that's right. Just like our style, don't you? Well, hang on, you don't want to miss a thing. Wasn't that a song? Didn't Steven Tyler sing that? And be sure to stick around to the very end of the show, because we always stick something at the very butt end of the show. Could be a cool video, photo, a gross meme, or even a contest. We keep talking about auction off some of AJ's clothes, so never know what we're going to do. By the way, I do have some useless information. Totally useless information is what I got. Totally useless information. Did you know riding roller coasters can help you pass kidney stones? That's what they say. You know, those experts. After multiple people claimed that they had passed kidney stones while riding Walt Disney World's Big Thunder Mountain Railroad ride. Whew, man, that's a mouthful. Walt Disney World's Big Thunder Mountain Railroad ride. God, that's a lot. A research team from Michigan State University decided to take a look at the situation in 2016. When they conducted tests using a model kidney, they found that there was a 64% successful pass rate for those seated in the rear of the roller coaster. But that number was just 16% for those seated in the front. Wow. You know what I say? Let's check it out for ourselves. I don't even think I can pass gas on that ride. I mean, seriously, it's like the mini mine train at Six Flags. Jeez, I mean, I've ridden it. That one. Big Thunder Mountain. It's cool. I guess it depends on your age and your thrill expectations. But I like something a little bit meatier. Don't you love their hands? Or their arms, rather. Their arms, it's like, I like to watch them. Right, so they start off here when they're pulling out of the station, and then next thing you know, they're like, are grabbing over the front. It's like, that's hilarious. Well, I don't know. I don't see that ride really busting up any kidneys, but I've got one that looks like it might. I mean, it's just the next level up, but it looks like it might bust up a few. Let's see.
Oh, sweet mother's milk in my mouth. Oh, dear. If I told you that I had to shit really bad, right now is about a bad time to sort of mention that.
That's a very bad idea.
I really hope that Kurt Schunk is a good noise, not and we're going to drop off that. Oh, my God. Son of a... Oh, crap. Oh! This is not cool. This is cool. This is not cool. No, it's cool. I can't make up my mind. There's seriously an oh fuck about to happen. Oh.
Okay, do you agree or disagree? Does that look like it might bust up a few kidney stones?
Oh, it's important to be well groomed when expecting visitors.
Oh, I can't do that. I can't do it. Wait.
Sure, let me brush your hair.
Oops. I was going to say that if you want more useless information, you can give AJ a call on the bar phone, 469-844-1631, because he knows everything, but he's not here. So, moving on. Be sure to check out my YouTube channel. Just search Barside Jive Live at youtube.com and click subscribe. And then click that little bitty bell to receive notifications when I post my premium content, which is free to all of you because you're premium people. Premium people, premium content. See, it all works. Oh, now we've got a special word from our friends over at the Commercial Film Producers of Europe. Wow.
Good afternoon, madam.
Yeah, I'm sorry, officer.
Can I see your papers, please? Hello. Mummy in a bit of a hurry, was she? Step out of the car, madam! Step out of the vehicle now!
Evil freaking kid right there now. Evil. Wow. Okay, guys, well, I got a joke. It's a bar joke, so it's, appropriate. So, 3 vampires walk into a bar. The first one says, "I'll have a pint of blood." The second one says, "I'll have one too." The third one says, "I'll have a pint of plasma." The bartender says, "So that'll be 2 bloods and a Bud Light?" Well, it's time again for that segment with all those big-ass raving reviews. I mean, earth-shaking, mind-numbing reviews. Our breaking news. That's right, guys. Breaking news. You know why we do this, right? Because we absolutely can't stand the media. I mean, they're so dumb and they're so wrong and they're such oftentimes just liars. Yeah, because they like to mislead you. They want to mislead you and make you believe the way they believe, which is scary. So we give it to you straight. We bring you news you can appreciate. I mean, not that crap you see on Fox, CNN, MSNBC, all that crap. No. We bring the good stuff. And speaking of good stuff, our top news story straight in from the Barside Jive news desk. Military to allow troops to replace camo with colors of their gender identity flag. That's right, guys. Washington, D.C., a new executive order handed down from President Biden will allow service members to select camouflage that reflects their chosen gender identity. Soldiers, Marines, and sailors deployed to the front lines will be given the choice of which kind of uniform to wear. Options range from transgender flag colors and rainbow colors to lesser-known gender identity flags. Rather than being stuck with patriarchal desert, forest, or urban camouflage, U.S. service members can now select camouflage that matches the flag of their chosen gender identity, said a spokesman for the Pentagon. Maybe I was supposed to say spokesperson. Anyway, it is important that every military member feel comfortable in their uniform and that it reflects their lived truth, whether that be a man in a woman's body, a woman in a man's body, or freaking grapefruit. I mean, seriously. So finally you can live your truth even as you fight America's enemies. Hope that made you feel better. Oh, and this is a good one. This is one of those trending news bulletins. Meghan Markle inspires millions of young girls with a message that no matter how famous, how rich, how powerful they are, they will always be oppressed. There's no escape. Montecito, California. In an explosive interview with Oprah, former Duchess of Sussex Meghan Markle inspired millions of young girls around the world with the very important message that no matter how rich, how famous, how powerful they are, they will always be oppressed. Oppression is inescapable, said Markle, who is married to a prince and worth approximately $50 million. If you are a woman, especially a woman of color, oppression will always follow you all the days of your life, and you will never, ever, ever be really happy. Young girls around the world stood up and cheered at the inspiring message, many of them feeling hope for the very first time. That wasn't the train, that was the mop bucket making its transition from the kitchen area to the restroom area. Anyway, thanks to Meghan Markle, I feel like I too can grow up to be a famous, rich, beautiful, oppressed woman, said Michaela White, a 5th grade girl from Southern California. She went on to say, "It's so encouraging to be reminded that I can grow up to be in the top 1% while never losing my resentment and high sensitivity to microaggressions." Markle has promised to continue taking her message of hope to girls everywhere until no one is happy or thankful anymore. "It is my true calling," she said. And guys, these news items are trending nationally. QAnon says Trump will make his move to unseat Biden by April 1. Biden still can't remember who he put in charge of the Alzheimer's research. Trending locally, burglar sues homeowner after being raped by German Shepherd while stuck in home's pet door. Well, guys, there you have it. How about a little rock history for this day, March 15th? Yeah. Oh. This week in rock history, guys, this is a big one. 1972 was the year. You know the day because it was today, the 15th of March. On this day in 1972, the Los Angeles radio station KHJ played Donny Osmond's Puppy Love for 90 minutes straight as an attempted publicity stunt. Concerned listeners phoned the police and feared that the station had been taken over by crazed fans of the 14-year-old singer. Police showed up at the station to find no laws except good taste were broken. Boy, ain't that the truth? I think I'd been puking. 90 minutes of Puppy Love? Whew! I'd have definitely changed stations. Okay, what we got next here, guys? Oh, this is a good one. 1989 is the year. The Rolling Stones signed a $70 million contract to play 50 North American dates on this day. At that point, it was the largest contract in rock history. $70 million back then. Whoa. Whoa. I think I got one more for you guys. I do. Back in 2002, Yoko Ono unveiled a 7-foot bronze statue of John Lennon overlooking the check-in hall of John Lennon Airport in Liverpool. The renaming of the airport featured a sketch of Lennon's face with the words, "Above us, only skies." Well, that'll wrap my daily dose of rock history, which means it's time for, oh man, COVID update, baby. All right. Now, well, we got a special treat today because now we have a message from Dr. Anthony Fauci.
And now, a message from Dr. Anthony Fauci.
What do you say we do? Oh, but first, our national anthem. Okay, guys, so Morgan, what the hell are you doing? So let's take a look at the very popular track and field event of hurling. Well, I'm good. Anyway, guys, that's her. I've totally lost control here, totally. Where was I? Oh yeah, hurling is the act of running into an obstacle at a high speed or in a sprint. In the early 19th century, hurlingers began crashing into every other obstacle, as you saw in our competition. You see, she did very well. She won. And just when you thought you had seen everything hurling. Yeah. And now a word from our friends over at Foghat Sellers.
Hi DC, thanks for having us on your show. And for you folks, I'm Roger of the band Foghat, and these are our wines. Foghat Cellars. This is a Chardonnay from Monterey County, absolutely delicious, 2014. We have 2013 Pinot Noir from Monterey County. It's absolutely fabulous, a wonderful drinking wine. If you like Pinots, you'll love it. This is a Cabernet Sauvignon from Paso Robles. All our wines come from Central Coast of California. Steve Rasmussen is our winemaker. Though in fact, myself and Linda actually get involved in the making of some of our wines. Drink, enjoy, go to foghatcellars.com to find out how to get them. Thanks, bye.
If you use the coupon code Barside Jive on the checkout screen, you'll get 20% off your purchase. Isn't that great, guys? Really, that's not just 10%, that's 20% off your purchase. You can even get a bottle autographed by Roger Earl. That's one of your choices there on that screen. He is the only remaining member of that classic lineup. So get your autograph bottle by Roger. All right. Weather's looking pretty nice out there here in downtown historic Grapevine, Texas, but let's check it out. From your Barside Jive Global Weather Center, where we try to stick to the current weather since forecasts are always so wrong, including ours. They're never right. Just the other day, it was like 60% chance of rain, and it's like, never got a drop. I don't know. It's just the way it is. They're all guessing. So anyway, here we go. Local AJ's weather is, hey, it's currently pretty sunny out there and 70 degrees. Today's high is 79. Air quality is good. Winds out of the south to southeast at 7 miles per hour. Humidity's at 50%. It's just a tiny bit moist, AJ, wherever you are. And the sun will set at 7:36 p.m. now because we've had that time change, so we can actually have a lot of daylight in the evening. It's awesome, awesome. And you know what? I don't care what moon phase it's in because I don't even know what that means. So what do you say we go to, we got Tyler today. Let's go to Tyler Potts on location in downtown Chicago for a closer look at weather conditions in that windy city. Never mind, Tyler. We're good now. Thank you for that report. I think that lady had a cold. Every time she comes to Chicago, she gets a cold. What the hell? Oh. So there was this woman sitting on a park bench muttering to herself and like spitting. She would mutter, then spit, and mutter, then spit. As a man got closer, he heard her say, "Damn, that son of a bitch can drive." Damn, that son of a bitch can drive. Damn, that son of a bitch can drive. He sits down next to her and says, "What's going on here? You keep saying, 'Damn, that son of a bitch can drive,' then you spit." "Well," she said, "my boyfriend just got a brand new sports car, so he calls me and asks me if I want to go for a ride." So I say, "Sure, why not?" He picks me up, and then we drive up to the mountains, and we have lunch, and it's nice, and then we start back down the mountain, and suddenly his brakes go out. He's like pumping the pedal and nothing. So now we're picking up speed, and the road is all twisty and curvy, and we're going faster and faster and faster, and it's hard to stay on the road. I've got my fingers like stuck in the dash, and I'm pleading with him to do something. We were about to go like 90 miles per hour down a sheer cliff on our right. A 500-foot drop was on the other side, an 18-wheeler was right on our ass, and an overturned motorhome was right in front of us. Well, I figured this is it. This is it. I just knew we were gonna die. So I turned to him and I said, "Babe, if you can't get us out of this, I'll give you the best damn blow job you've ever had." She paused, then spit. "Damn, that son of a bitch can drive." And that's your global weather from your Barside Jive meteorologist, kinda, here at Barside Jive. Our weather was brought to you by our friends over at, ooh, this is a rare occasion, Volkswagen. The message there, guys, is terrorism does not pay. Hey, what do you say we take a quick look at traffic? This is about that time of the show where I look to AJ and I say, "AJ, how's it look out there on South Main Street?" And he says, "This looks pretty clear to me." Yeah, and that's our local report. So what do you say we go to our dedicated traffic reporter, Traffic Jam Jimmy? Do you guys know Traffic Jam Jimmy? This dude is special. I mean, he's like really special. But let's go to Traffic Jam Jimmy for the latest traffic conditions in Baltimore. We haven't been to Baltimore in a while. Let's go. What's it look like out there, Jimmy?
Hello. Please hold forward to the next speaker.
Hey, Is it too early to get a fish sandwich? Oh, next speaker, hang on. Hey, it's too early to get a fish sandwich?
Malcolm?
Yeah, can I get a fish sandwich?
We're on breakfast right now.
Breakfast? All right, give me a egg McMuffin and a black coffee. Thank you.
What size would you like?
Medium. All right, I'll tell you, folks. Stay put. It's bad out here. I've been out since 4. Stay put, folks. Trust me.
Wow. Thanks, Jimmy. Traffic jam, Jimmy. Jamming on some fish from McDonald's. Oh, well, that didn't work out for him. Anyway, you know, that reminds me of a joke. Morgan, you like my jokes, don't you? So one day, 2 guys, Frank and Bob, were out fishing. A funeral service like is passing by over the bridge they're fishing by. And Bob takes off his hat and puts it over his heart. He does this until the funeral service completely passes by. Frank says, "Gee, Bob, I didn't know you had it in you." Bob replied, "Well, it was the least I could do. After all, I was married to her for 30 years. Okay, all right, I got one for the ladies. So 3 fishermen were fishing when they came upon a mermaid. The mermaid offered them 1 wish each. The first fisherman said, "Double my IQ." So the mermaid did it, and to his surprise, he started reciting Shakespeare. Whoa. Then the second fisherman said, "Triple my IQ." And sure enough, the mermaid did it, and amazingly, he started doing math problems he didn't even know existed. The third fisherman was so impressed, he asked the mermaid to quadruple his IQ, and the mermaid said, "Are you sure about this? I mean, it will change your whole life." The fisherman said, "Yeah." So the mermaid turned him into a woman. All right. Well, that'll bring us up to our featured guest segment, which is sponsored by Hip and Hippie. Hip and Hippie is a planet-loving company known for its high-quality, earth-friendly, 100% recyclable candle line and natural body care products. Guys, don't forget those natural body care products. What keep us looking so good. Me looking so good. Anyway, it's no wonder eco-supporting people love Hip and Hippie, hipandhippie.com. And as I mentioned earlier today, my featured guest is English rock drummer Simon Kirke. What a great guy he is, too. Best known as a member of rock band Free. Remember All Right Now? I know you remember All Right Now. It was huge. And Bad Company, the latter of which he has been the only continuous member since their inception. So guys, I will be right back with Simon Kirke after this quick break.
Bad company, and I can deny.
So I will be right back with Simon Kirke after this quick break. What a cool room, man.
Yeah, thanks. It's my little oasis.
Yeah. Well, some guys get on and it's like just a white wall. I'm like, fuck. Okay.
And I did pretty much most of it myself, except the burgundy. I got a professional guy to do that. That's all soundproof behind it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And that's in your home?
Yeah. Out at
Cool.
End of Long Island.
Long Island. Okay.
Yeah.
It's strange that it's like a lot of my guests here lately have been drummers. Bunny Carlos from Cheap Trick.
Oh, yeah, good drummer.
And Roger from Foghat, and Rick Lee from 10 Years After.
He's doing a book, right?
Yeah.
It's funny you should mention him because I've written a book. I don't know if anything will come of it, but one of my first.
Wait a minute, where is it done?
Yeah, but I don't know if I'm going to release it. I don't know.
Oh, come on.
Oh, it's a good book, man. But no, well, maybe when I'm dead and gone, we'll see.
You're not going to do it before?
I don't honestly think so because, the publishers wanted a lot of sex and drugs, and there was plenty of that. But I don't want to upset my kids.
Oh.
There was a lot of stuff. I had a pretty wild ride. And,
right.
It's kind of I don't want it to be a tell-all. But there's some great stories. But the reason I mentioned Rick was one of my first the clubs that I went to in London when I went down to London featured 10 years after. And I always liked Rick's playing. Of course, Alvin was just gobsmacking, amazing.
Yeah.
And but Rick was a great drummer. They were a really, really good band. I just read yesterday, I believe he's written a book, Rick Lee.
Yeah.
And, they were fantastic, man.
I really appreciate you doing this.
Pleasure, man. I do like it. I mean, I like being, I like looking over my resume, as it were. It's kind of a cathartic thing for me. And I've done quite a few of these Zoom meetings, podcasts, call them what you will, but it's nice to, I have quite a body of work, and I like to be able to be reminded in a way, because right now, obviously, nothing's happening work-wise, and it's kind of good to. I like when people are inquisitive as to what I did, how I did it, how I got here, and if I can help in any way, especially when it comes to addiction and so on, which is part of my story,
right.
then I'll help. But just far away. Let's see where it takes us.
Welcome back to Barside Jive. It is time for me to introduce my guest, Simon Kirke, British rock drummer, best known as member of Free and as member of Bad Company. He is the only member of Bad Company who has been in every lineup of the band since its inception. Simon, it's a real pleasure to have you here today.
Nice to be here, DC. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. What an amazing career. What an amazing life you've had.
Yes, I'm 71. I've had quite a few adventures. Lucky to be alive. I lived through the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s.
Wow.
And I mean, I had a run-in with lots of. I see Bruce got busted for DWI last night.
Yeah.
That just popped into my head, but even Bruce, I don't know what his blood alcohol reading was, but
he must have been at an illegal limit.
Yeah, he must have been bored out of his brain. I don't know, but no, I've had a good life. I mean, hopefully I got a few more years left, but I'm happy to tell my story or whatever you want to throw at me.
Simon, looking back, how would you describe in just a few words your career?
A crazy ride. You know, as I was talking to you earlier on, you know, I wrote a book, and primarily I wrote the book to kind of put my life in perspective, like a cathartic exercise, not really to publish, because look, all of us Asian rockers are releasing books, and I was born in 1949. I listened to the radio, la la la, and it's kind of, you know, kind of like the same sort of template.
Right.
So, although I consider it very interesting, I've no plans to publish it. But there, you know, I've had a great run. Jesus, I mean, I was lucky enough to be in one well-known band, let alone two, and on some really iconic records, you know. And I've worked with many iconic musicians.
Yeah.
Not Paul Rodgers or Paul Kossoff or Andy Fraser, but when I was with Ringo, I did 4 tours with Ringo. You know, I played with Jack Bruce, Peter Frampton, Todd Rundgren. I played with Chuck Berry. I played with Ray Charles. I played with Wilson Pickett. I've been very fortunate that my style of drumming can fit, you know, a lot of different artists from a lot of different genres, and
Yeah, what a compliment to be asked to play with those guys. I mean, says a lot about you, Simon.
Well, when I got the call from Ringo, I just come out of rehab, and you know, Ringo's been in the program for many years, and I've been doing a bunch of rock and roll fantasy camps, a counselor, a teacher. And the guy who did those camps was a guy called David Bischoff, and he had gotten Ringo. He was doing Ringo's solo tours, the All-Star Band, and he mentioned to Ringo in early '96, you know, that Bad Company wasn't doing anything, and I just done a camp, and Richie Lord, Sir Richard Starkey, called me up and said, and it was funny because my daughter, she was only about 7 or 8. She came to my study. She said, "Dad, Ringo's on the phone." I went, "Yeah, right." But sure enough, she handed me the phone and said, "Simon." "Yes." "Oh God, fuck me, it really is. It really is Ringo." He said, "Look, do you want to do a tour with me?" And I said, I'd love to. I mean, I really would. He said, "Now listen, I understand you just come out of rehab." I said, "Yes." He said, "How do you feel about playing sober?" I said, "I'm looking forward to it, you know." And he said, "Well, you know about me," and we all did, because Ringo and Eric Clapton were the two stalwarts of rock and roll sobriety, and Alice Cooper. So those were the big 3 guys, and they were very honest and open about their recovery. So for Ringo to say, you know, "How do you feel about it?"
Right.
He's kind of throwing out a challenge, you know, and he said, "I can do it." And it was one of the best tours of my life. I absolutely adored it. I loved it.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm sure you felt the same way I felt when you called me. I was like,
well, I was
Simon Kirke, and I missed the first call.
You did. I thought, fuck me, where is this guy?
I know. I assumed later I was looking through the register, you know, and I was thinking, oh, it's probably a telemarketer. So I clicked on it to hear the voicemail, right?
Well, I have a 201 area code, and 90% of telemarketing calls, for some reason, are from a 201.
Yeah.
So I would have blown it off as well, you know.
Yeah. Well, I didn't actually get the call at the time. I was doing something, didn't have my phone handy, you know, and so I missed the call. But when I was checking later to see who had called, and I clicked on that number, and it was like, "Hey, this is Simon Kirke," and I'm like, It's like,
Well,
wow.
you know,
Yeah. So I know how you felt when Ringo gave you a call.
well, I was just saying that luckily for me, my style of drumming fits many different styles. I mean, I was looking, for instance, I mean, I love these guys like Vinnie Colaiuta, David Weckl, you know, these amazing Neil Peart, you know, it's just not my style.
Right.
But you go on YouTube and you see some of these guys, these wonderful progressive rock drummers. And Vinny's great because Vinny can play simple. You know, he played with Sting, and then he plays with these incredible Stanley Clarke. So he's a bit of a chameleon, although he's far superior drummer in that he can read, and he's just the most amazing, one of the most amazing drummers ever. But my style is very simple and solid. And luckily enough, you know, through my years with Bad Company and Free, I have a reputation for being a musical drummer. You know, I play guitar, as you can see, and I play piano, and I have a good feel for what a song would need rhythmically.
Right.
And playing with Ringo was a departure for me because I'd been kind of corralled with Free and Bad Company, particularly with Free. I never played with anyone else outside of Free. We were very much a closed unit. And I was let off the leash a little bit with Bad Company, but you know, quite honestly, until I started playing with Ringo, I'd never really played with anyone else outside of those two bands. And I love playing with people. It doesn't matter what band, as long as I like the song and feel that I can add to it, then I'll do it. You know.
Who would you compare your playing style to? Another drummer?
Well, I'd say off the top of my head, Ringo. Honestly, he was a big influence with me, and that's why I think we meshed very well. We played very well together. He has a very simple, solid style, very musical. And once we had figured out the fills, because you know, for two drummers to do fills, going around the kit at the same time, it's a bit of a mess. So after the initial tiny train wreck in the first rehearsal, the first song, Richie said to me, you know, look, I'll take the first one and then you take, and we'll alternate. But our styles meshed very well together. And once again, if you go on YouTube and see any of the songs that we did together, we fitted very, very well. And yeah, so I would say Ringo, Charlie Watts, you know, these are the generation of drummers before me.
Right.
So Charlie's lovely. Charlie's got the best backbeat. Mick Fleetwood is just a few years older than me. Mick was a big influence, especially with the shuffle. You know, that blues shuffle. Mick Fleetwood was the king of the shuffle for me. And then going back into jazz, the big bands, which is another story, but I got it. Big band drumming got me into drumming. And Buddy Rich was the governor. I mean, Buddy was just...
Okay, so it wasn't necessarily the Beatles or Ringo that got you hooked. It was the jazz.
Well, it got me started. It didn't get me hooked. The Beatles got me hooked, but what started me was we got our first TV when I was about 13, and there was a little tiny black and white TV, and one of the first programs I ever saw was a program in England called All That Jazz, and it featured big bands, and I'd never heard big band music before. You know, listening to, on my transistor, I was listening to Tamala and Stax, but I never heard big band. And it was just like rock and roll, but a lot faster. And it had this 15 or 20 guys with trombones and saxes and whatever, trumpets. But right in the center was this drummer with his big kit and the cymbals catching the lights. And I was absolutely transfixed with what this guy was doing. And he did a press roll, brrr, bam, and I was hooked right there and then.
Yeah.
And so that's what got me started. But then I got a bunch of little books and tin cans and started playing to my little transistor radio. And that's how I started.
Wow.
Yeah. My breakthrough was listening to black music. Stax, Otis Redding, and the house band of Stax was Booker T and the MGs.
Right.
And their drummer was Al Jackson Jr., and he still, to this day, is my number one influence. And with Ringo and Charlie sort of neck and neck in second place. But Al Jackson was just, wonderful drummer. And I found out later that he was quite, he could play bass and piano and guitar. He wasn't just a drummer, which was unusual for a drummer back in the 60s. You know, he played other instruments and apparently played them very well. So,
right. Looking back over your entire career, Simon, is there, I know this is going to be tough, but is there one memory that really stands out that you think about from time to time?
Yeah, the top of my head would be the Isle of Wight Festival. You know, the English Woodstock.
Yeah, it was huge, right?
Yeah, that was, in many ways. You know, I look back on it now, 1970, God, 51 years ago. And back in those days, we never had monitors. Can you imagine playing in front of 500,000 people without monitors?
No.
No, I mean, monitors were just not around in those days. We just relied on the sound of the amps. But the thing about the Isle of Wight was, you know, All Right Now was climbing the charts, and so we were the flavor of the month.
Right.
They wanted us to go on Saturday night, which was the sort of the marquee night of Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Saturday night was the big night. Sly and 10 Years After, and Dylan was going to be on, and it was a huge event. So we got there very early, you know, around 2-3 o'clock, and we flew by helicopter. It was on the Isle of Wight, which is a tiny island.
Right.
And we flew from the hotel, and we came over this hill, and we saw this whole sea of what looked like ants, you know, all sort of writhing around. And right at the end of this sea of ants was this tiny little postage stamp sized area where the stage was. And the pilot indicated, there it is. And we go, whoa. So we got there, and I think we were due to go on about 7 o'clock. So we had a little smoke, we had a little drink, you know, we're getting nervous. I'm practicing on my practice pad, and, you know, and the hours could go by, and of course it was totally chaotic, and we kept getting bumped further and further into the night. Till about 9 o'clock, you know, we were pretty wasted. And our manager, Chris Blackwell, said, you know what, guys, I don't think you're going to go on until at least 1 in the morning. And everyone's going to be screwed up by then. So I'm pulling you from the show. We're going to go on Sunday morning, tomorrow morning. And he was smart, because it was a good thing to do. We were obviously very disappointed, because we've been, you know, dying to go on. But we went back to the hotel and came back the next morning. And it was a beautiful sunny morning. I think we went on about 11, maybe noon. And it was one of the great sets that we ever did. And to see this huge, I mean, you really couldn't see the end of the crowd. It was just like this big amphitheater. But apparently we went down very well. And when we started playing All Right Now, people were crawling out of the sleeping bags, you know, and like, it was a wonderful time. I never forgot that. And I think the first time Bad Company headlined Madison Square Garden, that was pretty. Yeah.
Two big events in your life.
Yeah.
I guess the two biggest, right?
The two, in terms of reaching commercial, you know, commercial reality, or whatever the word is, Yeah. I mean, when we got our first gold album at the end of our first American tour, that meant a lot to us emotionally.
Mm-hmm.
Even though we played in Boston, the Tea Party, which was a famous club in Boston, and you know, there was, I don't know how many it held, maybe 1,000, but it was the combination of this amazing tour, our first Bad Company tour, and Peter Grant, our manager, held us back before we went on to the stage and said, boys, I want to congratulate you on everything you've done. And people are going, you know, come on, we want the band, we want the band. And on the table in the dressing room, there was a sheet, and he pulled the sheet back, and there were these 4 gold albums. And that meant a lot to us. We were pretty much in tears. So yeah, there's different levels of highlights, but that was one of them for sure. Yeah.
You've had many.
Yeah.
Well, let's kind of rewind and go back to your childhood, kind of where it all started. And I know that you were raised in London. In fact, we had a phone conversation that we both kind of, in a way, in a roundabout way, my family's from England as well.
You're an aristocrat, mate. You're a bloody aristocrat. A blue blood.
Oh yeah, right. Well,
yeah.
It's only in my head, not in my bank account.
Yeah.
So
I was born in London but raised in the country. But
okay. Okay. All right. So, you know, you seem like just the nicest guy. All the video footage I've seen of you over the years, you just, you know, great smile on your face, just appear to be a real happy guy. You know, you're just, you know, you're the guy, you're the great neighbor that you have. You're the guy that you want to go fishing with, play golf with.
I love golf.
Yeah, you're just the guy that, you know, you want to hang out with. I mean, you can't say that about everyone, but you're just that nice guy that everybody wants to kind of hang out with. And do you have any hobbies beyond music?
I love riding my Harley, and I love playing golf. And that really, right now, I mean, I can't do either right now because I live on the Northeast. Unlike you Texans who can play golf any day of the week.
Dude, wait a minute, it's 30 degrees. It's 30 degrees here today.
No, I was just going to say you've got a real cold snap coming down. But those hobbies, yeah, that's what I do to relax. And I love playing. I love playing piano, and piano is the easiest for me to play now because, you know, I'm 71. Guitar is getting a little hard for me now because I have this condition in my wrists where I'm losing cartilage in the joints. So it's kind of hard to do that, you know. So playing guitar is not the pleasure it used to be for me. I love playing piano. So those would be my hobbies. And reading, I love reading. I'm a voracious reader, but give me a golf club and I'm a happy camper. I love playing golf.
What's your handicap?
Well, I was as low as a 12, but I'm probably now around about an 18 because I just don't play like I used to. But when I got sober, I remember Billy Joel said a great quote. He says, the average day of a rock star now is a round of golf and an AA meeting. And
well, there's a lot of truth to that in there.
There was a lot of truth in that. And the reason I took up golf was that it number one, I traveled all over the country.
Right.
And wherever in America there's a golf course, you know,
yeah,
in the summer. So instead of lying in bed nursing a hangover, you know, I could get my sticks and go out at 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning, be back in time for the sound check. And it was a great way of absorbing the day. And I met a lot of nice people playing golf. Only one time I met a guy who's a complete arsehole. But in all the hundreds of people that I met, and usually what would happen, DC, is I would start playing and the starter would put me with a bunch of people. And as soon as I talk, they say, hey man, where are you from? I said, well, I'm from England, but you know, I live in New York now. But what are you doing here? I said, well, and I can't lie. I'm not a very good liar. So I said, well, I'm in a band. Oh yeah, what band? Bad company. Go, what? No shit. And then they get the cell phones out and say, hey, Amy, you never guess who I'm playing golf. Here, say hello to my mom.
Yeah. And a lot of this too.
Yeah. And then I get a lift back to the hotel and I give them tickets for the show. So it was a win-win situation. So over the years, I must have played with hundreds of people and had a ball. I'm not very good, but I just love the game. And I keep in touch with some of those people to this day. And I just got to see a lot of the country and beautiful courses. I played some beautiful courses, and that's what I love doing.
Tell me a little bit about your family, mom, dad, siblings.
Well, it's a strange story. And now both my parents have passed away. So I don't mind saying that my mom was illegitimate. And the strange thing, I never met my maternal grandparents. She was a lady of mystery, my mom. She was a very beautiful woman. And she had a very colorful past in that in 1947, she flew to New York. Back in those days, it was like a 10-hour flight with propellers. And she went to Niagara Falls. She went with a couple of girlfriends. So she was quite an adventurous lady. Apparently, she played beautiful piano, but she lived with the stigma of being illegitimate. And history repeating itself, she worked in London in the war in the Czechoslovakian embassy as a radar operator. And she met a Czech airman, and she had a child, an illegitimate child by this guy, who's my stepbrother, my half brother. My dad was a Scottish guy, half Scottish, and he met her when he was on leave from the army, and he fell in love with her, and they got married, and I was the result. And he took on this kid, this 2-year-old boy, which back in those days, things obviously were a lot different than they are now, and so he took on a lot. And then I have a brother who lives in France. He's only 15 months younger than me, so we're very close. And my stepbrother lives in Prague, in Czechoslovakia. So that's my family, a crazy family. But you know what? I'll tell you this, DC, I love them. And when I go to my meetings and I hear, I haven't spoken to my father in 20 years, I haven't spoken to my brother, I go, what? You know how short life is, man? Just pick up the phone. And I did have a falling out with my brother years ago over money, of course. And I didn't speak to him for a couple of years, and I'm getting quite emotional because I called him out of the blue, and I said, Miles, he said, oh, hang on, Simon, yeah. He said, hang on, I'm just going to turn down the golf. I'm watching golf. Oh, wow, really? You like golf? He said, oh, I love it. And that's where we kind of reconnected and we played, and then so yeah, that's my family. And Nick, my oldest brother, my stepbrother, became he's a very famous stamp collector. He's got an amazing collection. He lives in Prague. Miles has got some health problems right now, but he's lived in France now for about 15 years, and both my parents passed away.
Right. So your mom, she played piano.
I never knew until several years after she passed away.
Really?
My told me, yeah.
So you didn't have a piano in the house?
No. But she had a record collection. It's kind of a sad story because she was very beautiful. She was very young when we moved from London to the country in 1957. So she was only 20. I think she was born in 21. So she was 36 years old. This beautiful woman. And we went to this cottage with no electricity, no running water. I mean, it was, and I think my dad was fleeing debt collectors. I think he owed a lot of money. He was a bit of a wheeler dealer, my dad. I don't want to, denigrate him, but I think he had some dodgy things going on. We left London pretty quickly. So that's how I was brought up in the country. But my mom was left kind of high and dry in this backwater where there was no TV, there was only battery-powered radio, and so she drank. And I inherited her love for booze. But she had this record collection, And she told me that she sold it to finance the move or help finance the move from London to the country. So she never had any records, but we used to listen to the classical station on our radio. And then she listened to jazz. And I got my love of music from her, without a doubt, because my dad had no interest in music whatsoever.
Does your brother play?
Miles, yeah, he played a bit of guitar. Yeah, my half brother Nick, no, he just likes music, but he doesn't.
Yeah. So apparently you had some music in the genes anyway.
For sure. Yeah, because it always, number one, drumming for me was a way out of this country. The country wasn't for me. It's, you know, it's like, I don't know, you're a city boy, I don't know, but if you're brought up in northeastern Idaho, you know, it's like, I don't, this is not my, I don't want to be here.
Right.
You're either in the farm, in the army, or you become a farmer. That's it. Those were the two options. And I didn't want to grow up in this place. So drumming for me was a way out of there. And fast forwarding a little bit, I wanted to try my luck being a drummer. And my parents gave me 2 years between high school and university. And I got pretty good grades. They said, look, you got 2 years, you're 18. If nothing happens in 2 years, at the age of 20, you've got the good grades, you can apply for college, but we're going to give you 2 years. God bless them, because you know, two of the saddest words are "if only."
Right.
And, they gave me a shot, and on the 23rd month of the 24 that they gave me, I got the break.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you think that if it hadn't happened in that 24th month that you would have been in the university?
Oh, I would have honored my word, because I would have given it a shot. And I would have, you know, I wanted to be a photographer. I wanted to be like a journalist, a photographic journalist. That was one of my ambitions. After that, I don't really know, but I'm sure I would have found something. But I never went to college. You know, I got the break, and I was off and running.
So I know that you play the piano, the guitar, of course, the drums. Did you start with the drums?
Yeah, well, I actually started with a recorder. It's
okay.
A flute. Yeah, well, in school, you had to. Part of this crazy music teacher that we had.
Did you start with the drums?
We got Mr. Bastit. Yeah, well, I actually started with a recorder. He liked me. I was a pretty boy. I think he was a little. You know, back in those days, it was illegal. Homosexuality.
Right.
From the fact I was only 12 years old, but he took me to his bosom. I was a pretty boy. I think he was you know, he was never inappropriate, but he said you have to learn an instrument as well as singing. I was a lead choir boy.
Oh, were you?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. You really started singing first.
Yeah, I did. I guess I did. But we all had to learn an instrument, and I did. Piano never was on my horizon, so I learned the recorder.
You really started singing first.
Yeah, I did. I guess I did. I never learned. But we all had to learn. But I got into singing, and then, as I said, I had this.
You really started singing first.
Epiphany, watching this thing, this big band. I got into drumming. And I picked up a pair of knitting needles and tried to do.
You really started singing first.
And that's how I got into it.
Wow.
Guitar. Now here's a lovely little story, and I'll make it a thumbnail. But I had this little tiny kit. I eventually got a little 4-piece kit in my bedroom. And I'm bashing away, and the neighbors are complaining. Yeah, I lived in a row house, a bunch of row houses.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I'm doing, you know, I think next to violin, learning the drums is probably the worst thing for any neighbor. Yeah. So they complained, and the police took me to court. So my father went to court. I think next to violin to sort something out, because I wanted to play, but So and he said a great thing. He said, listen, your son is only 13. His schooling comes first. This is my judgment. He can practice for half an hour at night, only after he's done his homework. Bang the gavel. And that was great because, you know, after half an hour, my dad would come and say, Simon, that's it, no more. And I'm like, it's like in the middle of a P. You go, what do I do now? What do I do? And my brother, Nick, was in the army, and he'd been home on leave, and he bought this little electric guitar. No man, like in the middle of just a guitar. And he left it in the corner of my room. And my brother, I couldn't play drums, so I just picked up the guitar and started learning a few chords. And I've been playing guitar as long as I've been playing drums.
Wow.
Because I've written nothing on drums, a lot of songs on guitar.
Wow, yeah.
Played for, and I've been playing guitar as long as I've been playing drums.
And also you can play the sax.
No, well, I tried.
Well, you did.
Yeah, I did. I did play on one song, and I love the sax.
And also you can play the sax
instrument. No, well, I flirted with it for a few years.
You did.
I never really got beyond. I did play on one song, level one.
You have one there. And also you can play the sax.
Not here, actually next door, where my drums are.
Well, you
hang it on the wall because it's a beautiful instrument.
Yeah.
I can listen to it all day. Charlie Parker, King Curtis,
yeah.
John, you know, Ornette Coleman.
Yeah.
But no, I can't do it.
Yeah. So I got to tell you this. I hate it. I hate eating up our time, but I got to tell you this. Yeah. You might appreciate this, Simon. First of all, I want to tell you that we also have something else. So I got to tell you this. Although I don't talk like an English, but I got to tell you this. Obviously, I'm from Texas. You can probably might appreciate this. But first of all, I want to tell you my mom's family is Scottish. I'm a Campbell. Talk like an English, but I got to tell you this. Obviously, I'm from Texas.
Pretty damn Scottish, man.
But yeah. So my mother, I told her I want to play drums. So she said, "Well, they're loud." And no. So we went to the S&H green stamp store where we used to have those green stamps in the books, and then you told her I want to play drums. So I bought a tambourine. She said, "Well, they're loud." And I set it up in my room, and I had some boxes, and I don't know where I got the drumsticks, but I would play those boxes and the tambourine. So I bought a tambourine. I had all sorts of things set up. And so I decided I want to be a drummer. So I went to junior high, because this was probably 6th grade. So junior high, I go to Mr. Jalefka, the band teacher, and I said, "I want to be a drummer." He said, "Well," so I decided I want to be a drummer. So I went to, he said, "I don't need a drummer." And I'm like, so I was just like, you know, devastated. He said, "But," he said, "I need a trombone player." And I'm like, "Well, let me see the trombone." So he shows it to me, and I'm like, he said, "Oh, no." My heart just, you know, sank. I'm like, "I don't want to." That thing's long and it's big, and no, I want a drum. And so he says, "Well, if you'll do this, as soon as I get an opening, my heart just, I'll put you in there." I'm like, "I don't want a drummer." That thing's long and it's big, and no, I want a drum. So I played trombone. He says, my first year, 7th grade. As soon as I get, so at the tryouts for 8th grade, because you could move up to a different band, I said, "Okay, I want to try out for drums." He said, so I played trombone. "Man, I've got so many drummers." I'm like, he goes, "Play trombone, and when I have an opening." So this went on 2 years. And so the 3rd year I was in high school. So I went to try out for the band, and I told the instructor I wanted to be a drummer. And he said, "Well," he goes, "we're full on drummers. And so the 3rd year, trombone, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "Went to try out playing that trombone as soon as I get an opening." I said, "Fuck no, I'm out of here." I quit band, put that trombone up, never played it again. I was like, no, I wasn't going to go through that BS for, 4 more years.
I think you were being strung along, DC.
I was.
Yeah.
I was, but
I like the idea, the tambourine, and you were hitting the skin on the tambourine.
Yeah. Yeah, that was cool, man. Yeah, and I'd play along to, back then I was probably playing along to, I don't know, Steppenwolf. Yeah. Some Beatles, and then Steppenwolf.
Yeah, they were good band.
Right.
Wow, that still holds up.
Guys, you're watching Barside Jive with my guest, drummer Simon Kirke, best known for his work with Free and Bad Company.
Yeah.
Okay, so you joined this band called the Maniacs as their drummer, and I assume that was your first band.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it was, because I had this, my school bus driver was a guy called Mr. Lane, and I had a little high school band, where we did, end of year. I think the one time I did this end of year concert, and one day he was dropping me off from school. I was about 14. He said, "I hear you play drums." I said, "Yeah, I do." I was kind of surprised. He said, "Well, listen," and I'll never forget. He said, "I got a business proposition for you. I need to speak to your parents."
Wow.
Oh. So he came in, it was only a little village, so we all knew each other. So he came round the next day and he said, "Listen, I hear your Simon is playing drums, and I have a disco." He didn't use that word because it was before disco became disco and ruined everything.
Yeah.
He said, what I do, I go around the village halls in the area, little 30-mile area, and I have a stack of 45s and I play different songs, these village dances. And I think it would be a good idea if your son set his drum kit up next to me and played drums along with them. And I'm going, wow. And my mom was they were both a bit leery because, dances were like 8 till 9 or 10 or 10:30. I wouldn't be home before like midnight sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna, and they could see me going like salivating. Yeah. They said, "Well, we'll give him yes, providing it doesn't affect his schoolwork."
Mm-hmm.
So they were pretty lenient, my folks. And we started off for a couple of months, and it was great. DC, I tell you, I had to play along to Jim Reeves, old country stuff, Hank Williams, and then the Supremes, and then the Stones, down, down, go down, 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 and then into some some tuba shit, and then all these different genres.
Wow.
Yeah. And
so you had to stretch.
I did this for like nearly 3 years.
Wow.
And that's where I got my sense of time, because I had to be in time. So during one of these, village hops, this guy came up to me and he said, "Hey, I hear you. I like you playing, man. Would you like to be in a band, like a real band?" And I said, "Yes." He said, "We're called the Maniacs." And I thought straight away, I just love the name. So I joined this band called the Maniacs. And now my parents were really worried because these guys they were a few years older than me. They were country boys.
Uh-huh.
They were built like brick shit houses, and we started traveling. Once again, they said, "Okay, as long as it doesn't affect."
Now, are you still in high school?
I was still in high school, maybe 15, 16.
Yeah.
And I won a little cup for drumming. We did Wipeout, the Safaris, the Wipeout, and I did the drum solo, and I got a little cup, 1965.
Wow.
So I was 16, and we went all over. We got a pretty good following. And then they broke up, and I formed a trio called Heatwave, and that was the last thing I did before I went down to London and gave it a shot.
You're still living out in the country then, right?
Yeah. I didn't leave the country until I was 18, 1967.
Yeah. So I guess your parents were pretty supportive then.
Looking back, they really were. And I have to say that I did apply myself. I did try and do well for them as well as me, because had I not studied and done well, then they would have pulled the plug, said, "Oh, screwing up your work, no more." But they could see the passion that I had for this. This wasn't a fly-by-night thing. I really wanted to be a drummer, and I wanted to give it a shot.
Right.
And being a father now, and having 3 daughters that have all done very well in their various projects, I see the passion in their eyes.
Right.
I'm hands off. I don't get involved very much with their affairs. So that's what got me through. I managed to get pretty good grades, and I managed to follow my dream. I was very lucky.
So is it true that you were lead vocals for the Maniacs as well as drum?
No, I didn't sing until the Heat Wave.
Okay, Heat Wave. Okay.
I might have done backup vocals, but Richie, we had two brothers, Richie and Royston Jones, and Richie was the lead singer. He was such a character, and we had an amp that had 10 inputs, and it was only the size of this TV screen that I'm looking at, but it had 10 inputs. It was from Germany. I don't know how it managed, but it blew up one night because we all went through this. Vocals, bass, guitar, everything went through this one amp. But no, Richie sang, and I might have done one backup vocal, but I didn't start singing lead vocal until the Heat Wave.
But when you did, I mean, that was pretty unusual for a drummer back then.
Yeah.
To be lead vocal, right?
I guess it was, yeah.
I mean, back then, what year was that?
Heat Wave, I was 17, so it would be 66.
Yeah. I mean, nowadays.
Well, Phil Collins does it, Don Henley.
Yeah.
I tell you, he's got a great voice. Is McCartney's drummer, A. Laborio.
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful singing. So it's actually when you think about it, when you're playing, you've got this energy sort of north of your waist. And it's not that difficult to expel, vocals and singing and playing is not really as difficult as it might appear.
Yeah, on this side of the stage, it seems like, oh my God, that would be like too much going on. Your brain is like, but I guess not.
No, it's not. In fact, it's harder with Bad Company. I do this song of mine called All Because of You, and I get up from behind the kit and I play guitar, and that's actually harder to come out front on stage and sing and play.
Right.
That's for me because it's more alien.
Right.
Sitting behind the kids.
Right.
But
would you describe yourself as more of, I guess, an introvert than an extrovert?
I don't think so. I'm gregarious. I like people. I have my moments of shyness, particularly around people. There's several people in my social circle, if you want, that just leave me dumbfounded. And one of them is Keith Richards.
Yeah.
I tend to be quiet around him because he's just a force of nature. Ringo, my peers, they make me sit back and listen respectfully. But I think on the whole, DC, I'm a pretty noisy bastard.
Really? Yeah. I mean, I've seen you out front and you look very comfortable, but a lot of times drummers, they appear to not mind the back of the stage,
Very good. That's a good point. I look at early footage of myself in Free, particularly Free, and I'm like this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Kind of covered up.
You know what? I'll let you know an open secret. I never really rated myself as a particularly good drummer back in those days. I held a very good beat, and I'm proud of that. But compared with other people back in those days, I never really thought, not anymore. I think I'm a pretty good drummer now, and have been for some time. But until I actually found my own niche, my own way of playing, like anyone starting out, you have an amalgam of different styles. You borrow from other people, you get influenced by other people. And I didn't really find my own style until about 1970 when we recorded Fire and Water and All Right Now. And I had this breakthrough in my drumming. But up until then, I was very shy about actually playing because I was surrounded by Paul Rodgers, one of the greatest singers, Paul Kossoff, one of the greatest guitarists, and Andy Fraser was just a genius on the bass. So I kind of felt a little inferior, quite honestly, until, All Right Now. And then I took off and,
you have your own style in your own way. And obviously you can look back over your career and go,
Well, it's oddly enough, to bring someone in completely out of this conversation, I got Jerry Seinfeld's book, and it's one of the funniest books I've ever read. And I love Jerry Seinfeld, and he said a great thing when he was starting out in the early '90s. He was in his mid-20s, and the interview, Stephen Colbert asked him. He said, "Well, how do you feel about? Did you think your material was inferior back in those days?" He said, "Absolutely not. It might not have reached the heights that my fame has brought me to now, but it was just another stepping stone my life, you know, how I progressed through my life." And looking back on my first album with Free, Tons of Sobs, where my drumming was busy, it wasn't as solid, but it was a little too busy, but it had feeling, it had passion, and I would not denigrate it. It was just a stepping stone to the next level, to the next, and so on and so forth.
Right.
So, you know, that's just the way we are as we progress in our careers. And Eric Clapton said a very interesting thing, that the music that he played before he got sober, he discounts. It doesn't mean a thing to him. I'm not of that opinion. That's his opinion. That's not, you know, I have played. The only one time I did blow before I went on stage was one of the biggest regrets of my life, because I played like shit. It was terrible. But I've never played high or out of control except that one night. So the music that I played, even when I was drinking and doing drugs, I saved that 2 hours on stage as a kind of sacred time. And I never played out of control, apart from that one time out of thousands of shows that I've done. So I don't know where I'm going with this ram.
Why that one time?
Oh, I was just bored. And we were in Detroit, and we had this guy hanging around back in the mid '70s, and you know, coke was this currency all over the country, not just America, but in England as well. But everyone did it, and I thought, fuck it, what the hell? Maybe it'll wake me up. And it was horrible. I was like, never again.
Did you drop your sticks?
Nearly. I think I tried to throw it up and caught the butt end, the wrong end, you know. Played the rest of the show because I was too rigid to try and put it back properly. Yeah.
Oh man. Well, when you left the country and you went to London, I guess the first band there was Black Cat Bones.
Yeah.
And how did you find that band?
Well, the blues boom was big in England at that time, 67, 68. It was really, and Zeppelin had come on, and Cream, and blues was the, you know, the sort of melting pot, the springboard from which a lot of bands, Deep Purple, had sprung. And I just loved that name. And I was looking through Melody Maker, that great British mag that unfortunately just folded last year. And I saw this Black Cat Bones. I thought, what a great name for a band. But they were across town, and London is huge. And I lived on the far west side of London, and this club was like a 40-minute subway ride. So it was a long way, and I thought, oh, God. And I just come back from work. I was really tired, but I wanted to see this band, so I tossed a coin. And if it comes down heads, I'll go and see the band. If it comes down tails, I'll stay at home. And this is the first page of my book, with this coin spinning in the air. And it lands on the back of my hand. It comes up heads. So I go to see this band, and I get there. They've been on stage for about, you know, maybe 10 or 15 minutes. It was in a pub. And they were okay. The band were pretty good. They were playing standards, Crossroads, Rock Me Baby, you know, but this guitarist was fantastic. And a little guy. And they had a break after about 30 minutes. They came off stage and, you know, mingled with their friends and family. And this little guy comes over to the bar, and I sidled up to him. I said, man, you play really well. He said, oh, thank you. I said, but your drummer's shit. And he said, wow.
Did you really?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if I said the word. I said your drummer's not very good, because I'm a nice guy and I don't want to like jump in with both feet. And he said, well, it's funny you should say that, because tonight is his last night, and we're holding auditions tomorrow in this pub. We're leaving the gear up, and there's one other guy coming. So if you want to come along at 3 o'clock,
I know why you said that to him.
Why?
Because you're in your 23rd month and you're fixing to have
Yeah.
to go to university.
You're right. There was an air of desperation, DC.
There was.
And then I went home. I'm like, oh my God, me! I got an audition with a professional band.
Yeah.
And I came back the next day, and we did Rock Me Baby, and I love doing a shuffle, boom, 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 and we did a slow blues. And the other guy got up, and he wasn't. No, I kind of knew. I thought, oh God, I think I might have got this. So they got in a little huddle, and they came up to me and said, we'll let you know. Shit. Oh man, you can't give. I didn't say you can't give me an answer now. So I gave my phone number, and they called me the next day and said, yeah, you got the job.
Wow.
So for 6 months, I played in this band called Black Cat Bones next to Paul Kossoff, who was the guitarist, and just knocked me sideways every night. It was so good.
In the guy that you approached in the bar.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was him. Yeah.
Yeah, that was him.
Yeah.
And he was the star of the band, obviously. And he kind of took me under his wing, because I was this country kid. He was the city wise, although a couple of years younger than me, a year younger than me, but he was very street smart. And I hung out with him a lot. We listened to a lot of records together. I went to his apartment. He had a girlfriend who was older than him, a beautiful girl. He drove. I mean, like this guy, I had a lot.
Yeah.
Whenever he went to guitar, he used to work in a guitar shop, a music shop in Charing Cross Road in London, and they used to almost like, so he'd say, give me a guitar, and he'd plug it in, and all the snares and the drums rattling and everything is rattling, and he was a real character. I loved him.
Did he teach you how to play?
No, oddly enough, I've been playing a few years, like 2 years, so I knew chords. I didn't play lead guitar. But I did teach him. We do all right. He's did all right now. And I taught him this. I taught him that lick, and he put it in this one of the great solos of all time.
Wow.
But no, he was his own. When it came to lead guitar, he was his own boss.
Yeah.
He loved Hendrix. I mean, when Hendrix came along, everyone was like,
yeah.
There's a great story about Clapton phoning Pete Townsend and saying, "Hey Pete, we're in trouble."
Yeah.
When Hendrix played at the Scotch of St. James, the first time he played, he had to call up Townsend and say, "Pete, we're in trouble." But Kossoff loved Hendrix, and he just fell in love with Hendrix's sound.
Yeah.
Anyway, I digress.
No, you're great. If it hadn't been for Paul, there never would have been a Free for you.
No, I was fully resigned to living up to my word and going home and going back to university. But at the time, after about 6 months, Paul came to me, and we become really good friends by then. He said, "Listen, I've just met this singer. I jammed with this guy in a band called Brown Sugar across town, and he's an amazing singer. And I think I want to lead this band. And would you want to be the drummer?" And I was kind of, I just joined this band. We were playing. I was getting like 40 pounds a week, and I was a little, well, I'd like to meet this guy. I'd like to, sure, but with reservations, because Black Cat Bones was starting to get really well known on the blues circuit. We were getting more and more people in every other night. you know, we were building up a following.
And how long had you been with them?
6 months.
Yeah,
And
not
I
long.
think Paul had only been with, you know, they'd been with him maybe a year and a half, which back in those days, when you're a kid, a year and a half is
It's
a
a
long
long
time.
time. Yeah.
So he was ready to move on.
Mm-hmm.
So one day we drove up to North London to this big house, and a guy let us in, and in the living room was a little mini setup. You know, it was PA and drums and a couple of amps, and there was Paul Rodgers sitting on a bar stool, you know, playing a harp, waiting for us. He played great harp. He plays really good blues harp, and he kind of was taken aback when he saw me, but he said, hey, you know, he obviously knew Paul from their jamming together at this club a couple of weeks before. So we jammed, and the bottom line was that he said, yeah, man, let's form a band. Let's do this. Because he loved Paul's playing. I love Paul's voice. I mean, back then, this was in 1968. The beginning of 68, that's 53 years ago. And he made an impression on me then. He was such a good singer. And Koss, we called Paul, and Paul Rodgers Paul, and Paul Kossoff Koss, because we had two Pauls. So when I refer to Koss, you know who I'm talking about. So Koss called me the next day and said, yeah, you know, now we've got to find a bass player. Because Paul likes you, and I said, man, this guy is such a good singer. Wow. But then we needed to find a bass player, and we knew this guy called Alexis Corner, who was the godfather of the blues scene, an English Greek guy, and he had this band called Alexis Corner's Blues Incorporated. I think it was something like that, but it was like a finishing school for musicians. Jack Bruce had been there. Ginger Baker played with him. Graham Bond, a very good keyboard player, played with him. Many people had gone through this band and gone on to other things. A young singer called Mick Jagger had been, and this drummer called Charlie Watts had played with him for a while. So he had the Rolodex of all musicians in the area, and Paul Kossoff knew him. And Alexis had called Koss and said, there is this kid, and I'm talking kid, who plays great bass. And he's just left John Mayall. He was with John Mayall for a few months. And John Mayall, as you know, had the Bluesbreakers, and featuring Eric Clapton and then Peter Green. So Mayall's band was the creme de la creme. And this kid, he's 15. What? 15? He's playing at this club. You want to go and see him tomorrow night? So we went down to see him, the three of us, me, Paul Rodgers, and Paul Kossoff. And we saw this, and he was just phenomenal. So we met him backstage. Hey, man, we know Alexis. Oh, Alexis, yeah. Look, we're having a get-together in a couple of nights. You want to come and, you want to have a jam? He said, sure, I'll come. And a couple of days later, we met at this same pub that I met Paul Kossoff a few months before, 6 months before. And
what was the name of that pub? Do you remember?
Nag's Head in Battersea. It's now demolished, and it should have had a blue plaque on it because that's where Free was born. And we had our first rehearsal, jam, and it went off so well. And during that jam, we were there all night. Alexis came, and he was gobsmacked. He said, wow, you sound like you guys have been playing together for years. What are you going to call yourself? And we go, I don't know. And we sat down and had a little drink around the table. And he said, listen, I had a band with Jack Bruce and Ginger Baker, and we called it Free at Last. Now, obviously, you can't call it Free at Last, but why don't you call it Free? He said, you know what? Yeah, it sounds like a good idea. And so Alexis Corner came up with the name, and that was the birth of Free, around about March 1968.
Wow. I really thought that John Mayall was kind of like Alexis, because I've known so many players that have moved through John's band. In fact, a friend of mine, Buddy Whittington, played for John for 15 years, and another friend, Rocky Athos, played guitar for John for 15 years. And they're both Texas guys.
Oh, okay.
And both of them have done 15 years with John over there in your part of the world. And I always thought John was kind of that same way, wasn't he?
Well, I think that's a very good point. The thing about Alexis was he was more country blues.
Oh.
He never had the icons, the iconic musicians in those days, because Eric really put him on the map.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the famous Beano album.
Right.
Album that, oh my God. Clapton, I believe he was 23 or 24 when they recorded it. So that really put John on the map. And John he had a band, whereas Alexis was more country blues, and he'd bring on people. I didn't know him before Free, but Free's very first tour was with Alexis, and Alexis would go out and do some country blues for 30 or 40 minutes, and then he'd bring us on and we'd do a full band thing. So that was the difference between John Mayall and Alexis Corner, was that John was just a little bit more bombastic. You know, he had a full powered band, and Alexis was a little bit more in the shadows, as it were. But I mean, hugely respected, as was John Mayall. I think between the two of them, they launched a whole series of American blues artists, or brought their recognition to the foreground. Without John Mayall and Alexis, people like B.B. and Albert and Freddie King, you know, they just wouldn't have got a look in. Mm-hmm. Albert Collins, all those great guys, you know. But anyway, that to me was the difference between John Mayall and Alexis Corner.
Mm-hmm. Well, I got to tell you this, that Bad Company, it was huge. When that first album came out, and I still own it, I've still got my copy. That was like, I mean, I was always a Zeppelin guy from early on, you know, Zeppelin. I've owned everything Zeppelin's done, including bootleg stuff that was recorded in little old clubs in Germany. But when that first album came out, I was like, okay, I love Bad Company. And it was like Bad Company all the time, you know. And I say that, but I still love the Free stuff better. I do. When I first heard All Right Now, I didn't know who Free was until then. Yeah. And that was what, the third album?
Yeah, it was Tons of Songs, Free, and Fire and Water. Yeah. Third album.
So that's the third album. Now I'm just now realizing there is a Free in existence. Of course, you know, unless we found it at the record store, you know how you could go in and they would have a copy, you could put the headphones on and listen, sample the music, or because unless it was on the radio, you didn't know. And at that time, there were so many albums being put out, the shelves at the record store were huge, just like a mile long. I mean, you know, the record stores were huge here. So it just got lost in the crowd.
You're talking about the beginning of AOR. And
yeah.
Even an AOR was a saving grace, because it was all that top 40, the sugar, and you know, whatever, the kind of bubblegum music, which is okay in its own place. But then AOR came along in the late 60s, but you still had to have, for us, the calling card was All Right Now. It opened up a lot of doors. It really did. And even though we never subscribed to being a pop band, or whatever you want to call it, pop being popular, we didn't really want to become, we wanted to be this, you know, this kind of blues rock band, you know, anti-glitter, because back in, you know, we just wanted to be our own thing. But we did these first two albums, and they sold, you know, a few thousand, nothing special. But All Right Now was born from a bad gig, and it's a kind of a famous story now, that we walked off the stage to the sound of our own footsteps, because we didn't have anything that was, it was all, it was nothing really, bonk, bonk. So we needed a song to get people up and dancing, quite honestly, BC. And I always say that All Right Now was born out of a bad gig, and it was. It was born out of necessity, and it changed our lives.
No, yeah, well, and it introduced us to Free, and then when we went back and heard the previous albums, it was like, wow, this is great stuff.
I think you made a good distinction between Free and Bad Company in that there was a certain charm about Free, a certain newness, because you had this great singer, this great bass player, this great guitarist, and we were all still in our teens. And there was a certain newness about us. And I listened to some of the old stuff from 68 and 69. It's really, really good. But it just got lost in this plethora of album. And of course, Zeppelin were ruling the roost. They were an amazing band. I know it's one of those but Zeppelin were a really fantastic band. Not only live, they were the first band to do an acoustic set.
Yeah.
In the middle of these arenas,
right.
Jim would say, oh, now we're going to do something different. And Bonzo would come out with a little tambourine, and John Paul with a little ukulele. And they'd do fucking a couple of acoustic songs.
Sit down in a chair.
Unbelievable. Because they had so much confidence.
Yeah.
They knew that 20 minutes later, they'd be doing ba-bam, ba-bam, bam.
Yeah.
They just knew it. So I love Zeppelin. And of course, when we joined Swan Song, they took us under their wing and we got to know them. They were just great guys.
Barside Jive shall not be responsible for any incorrect or inaccurate information caused by this broadcast. Barside Jive does assume, however, all responsibility for the satirical nature of its content and for the occasional fictional nature of its content. All characters appearing in this broadcast, even those based on real people, except for our featured guests, of course, are entirely fictional, and any resemblance between them and any persons living dead or undead is purely a miracle.